Greetings, everybody. Welcome to Tifa's Tarot, and I hope you're doing well wherever you are in the world. And we are approaching the end of 2024. I wanted to make a different kind of video, which is just highlighting some notable astrological events that are happening in the incoming year that we can be collectively aware of. Okay, always make sure to look at your own natal chart, your birth chart, which I'll put in the description of the video, but wonderful site where you can do that just to know how it where your placements are, where your houses are, where your planets are, and how you can effectively use them to the best of your ability by understanding more not only about yourself but also about the transits that we are all collectively going through, right? So I wanted to talk about just in general some noticeable key events that I've kind of picked up on and that I've done some research on. And our first one is looking at the lunar node shift. Okay, so the nodes are a place in the sky, right? So it's almost like when we talk about our nodes, there's a north and a south, and they're always going to be of opposite sides. Your north node is going to talk about your potential. It's almost like what you came on this planet to learn how to do. Our north node can sometimes make us a little bit uncomfortable because it forces us to be in scenarios or situations that we aren't necessarily comfortable with, but it pushes us for growth, right? And so you almost like look for those experiences sometimes in life to really be able to push yourself to the next level. That would be you activating your north node. Now your south node is where you are comfortable. That's like your complacency. It's almost like your inborn ability. It's like when you come on this planet, you already have something that you know how to do or make or whatever that's your gift, right? That's something that's your comfort zone, some a place that you feel comfortable, right? Or something that you take comfort in, right? That where you're familiar or used to. So that would be you really activating and living in your south node, right? When you don't really push yourself, and this is like you're good here, okay? So, what's happening collectively is an 18-month cycle that they go between these nodes. And the nodes are shifting from Leo Aquarius, and now we're getting into Pisces and Virgo, right? So, collectively, Pisces is going to be in the North Node. So, what that could really mean is really us kind of like healing ourselves on an emotional level by really kind of diving deep into our psyche, into our dreams, and really coming to fullness of who we really are. Because Pisces is the combination of all of the signs. Pisces is the most mature sign. Pisces is the old soul sign, right? Pisces strives to know others by knowing ourselves best, right? So it's the sign of our psyche, right? So that means on a collective level, we could be really trying to like look towards that, look at becoming whole with that, right? With our psyche in that way. Now with that south node that's going to be in Virgo, I feel that this is collectively us looking at our relationship with the planet and what are all of the stories. Because remember, the South Node has to do with like the past, right? This is like these innate abilities. What are stories that our planet Earth are telling us? I feel like there's going to be some impact on the planet and our relationship with that and how good we are as stewards of our community and of our environments. Okay. And I think that's we're going to be looking at how we could be more of service to the planet Earth. I feel like there could be themes that are happening around this particular time with that South Node in Virgo, right? Lessons from the Earth in history from our relationship with the Earth are going to be kind of prevalent around this time. Okay, that's what I'm really thinking of. So let's shift on to our second one, right? The second most noticeable thing is Saturn. All right. So when we talk about Saturn, I call Saturn like Father Time, right? It's what it's kind of called. It's like Chronos, I believe. But Saturn grounds us, right? It's got a very like heavy atmosphere. Okay. It's gravity. It grounds us. It is time. It is like the ways in which we learn our lessons. So Saturn Saturn represents like our discipline, how our commitment structures, how are we committed? Do we learn the lessons that the universe are giving us, right? Well, how do we rise to challenge, right? When challenges come forth to us, right? Saturn almost teaches us that, right? Saturn is not the fun-loving planet. It's the planet that helps you to grow by grounding you and making sure that you learn the appropriate lessons that you need to learn when you need to learn them. Okay, so Saturn, let's see in my notes, is shifting from Pisces to Aries. Okay, so it's been there since 2023. So it's been in Pisces since 2023. Now, I kind of feel that, let's see, with it being in Pisces, it's almost like when you talk about Saturn and Pisces, and Pisces, like I said, is more about delving into that human psyche of things, okay? Um, let's say the last time it was in the sign was April through October of 1996. So if you think back to around that time, if you were even alive, that's the last time that it was there. But Saturn teaches us these lessons. So I feel like around this time there have been lessons that we should have been learning since March of 2023 of how to grow on an emotional level, how to heal ourselves on that emotional level. And it really kind of resonates and resigns also with this lunar node as well, where I feel like 2025 kind of enters into us really thinking about our mental, like our almost like our mental health, our spiritual health, our emotional health in some way, and deciding like what to do with that. So Saturn is like, what are the lessons that you've learned in this past like 2 years or whatever, however many years? What are the lessons that you have learned in this time that you can now apply? Because now when we're putting it into Aries, now that is like that cardinal fire, that action, like go for it, right? So it's almost like you're taking action on the emotional and mental development that you've undergone around this time, and now you're actually taking action. It's like you've been absorbing things and figuring out how to heal and figuring out what's working for you on an emotional level, and now it's time to actually like do the work of what you've learned. Okay. This is also a bit of a mind shift, right? Because the lessons that we maybe have learning that you've kind of figured are not fair. And like when it's collectively in Pisces, it's blaming, it's a victimhood. It's like, well, I could have had that, but it's like, oh my God, poor me, woe was me. But when it shifts into Aries, this is now you're taking accountability for these lessons. So it's almost like you're shifting the perspective of like all of the tough challenges that have happened to you in this time period, into now taking accountability for those actions and being like more proactive of what you can do going forth, right? So I feel like collectively there's going to be a lot less of blaming others and more us picking up the pieces and doing what we have to do to keep moving, right? Doesn't make sense to like stay in a what was me, right? Position forever. So that's what's happening with Pisces. I'm sorry, this was happening with Saturn around this time. So it's going from Pisces to Aries on these dates, right? So that'll be May through September of 2025. Okay. So it's earlier is in Pisces and it's going to shift into Aries on that May 25th date. All right. May 2025 date. So our next one. Now this is very interesting because now we get into the far outer planets, because we're talking about Neptune. When we get into that, now we're talking about this is a generation. So we're having like this is like a new time. This is like a bit historic in some ways, right? Now, Neptune is going from Pisces to Aries. Now, Neptune is the planet of, it's like dreams, it's the way that we heal ourselves, it's our intuition, it's our mysticism, magic, shamans, our spiritual awareness. Like that is Neptune, okay? And Neptune collectively for all of us has been in the sign of Pisces. It is at home in Pisces. Pisces is the ultimate dreamer. Pisces ain't never here, they always somewhere else, right? And that's where we've been, and it's been very comfortable here. It thrives in Pisces. So what we've been seeing collectively, if we're looking at it, so it's been there since April of 2011. Okay, and so if you think about all this time, it's been almost like very acceptable. You've seen like a surge of people really getting into metaphysical spirituality, leaving the nest and the traditional religious structure and finding peace and solace in yoga and Reiki and crystal healing, and shamanic practices and ancestor reverence. There's just so many ways in which we've opened up our intuition, our psych, our spiritual paths, right? And so it's been a home. And so if you've been alive, you're paying attention. There's just been a surge of a lot of acceptance to mysticism, right? And alternative outside of Abrahamic religious beliefs. So there's we've been embracing that, I feel, as a society, right? It's becoming more and more prevalent. And so that's served its purpose. It's made us very mindful. It's healed our human psyche in a lot of ways. It's freed us on a spiritual level to be able to be open to different practices. But now, as of what's the date? March 30th of 2025, it's going to shift into Aries. So that is a stark contrast to, like, Aries is bold, it's daring, it's rebellious, it is fiery, okay? And it's cardinal, so it's an action taker, right? And so where that's going to take our dreams to like the next level. I think we're going to be looking more into, it's going to be a little bit jarring, for instance, right? But to put it in perspective, the last notable time that it was in um, Aries was in 1862 to 1875. Now, if you're thinking about this time, this is like Industrial Revolution time in the United States. The Civil War was happening. There was the abolitionist movement. There was the first printing press had been it's like the world got bigger. Ideas, old antiquated ideas about humanity and how we were living as a society really began to break down to the point of like wars like happening. And the first stock exchange, the idea of the world just being like a lot bigger than before, and the acceptance of that, the understanding of that. So that's a notable time that it was in Aries was during these things were happening, right? Like very revolutionary things. And of course, we're in 2025 is going to look a little bit different. So what is that going to do, like technology wise, right? Speaking. Another notable thing about this is being careful of cultish personalities could be very prevalent around this time. There could be a lot of like zealots, martyrs that kind of like come up. So like ideas, like having people with really strong ideas and really, really strong following and followers is like a theme of that, right? And it's also a theme of making sure to watch out for if there are any power dynamics, right? There's going to be struggles with power dynamics because we're looking here at this is the beginning of a 13-year cycle. So those power dynamics, it's like people who are still stuck in that Piscean energy, that dreamy mysticism, are being bulldozed by new developments, harsh realities. I can see the ending of like organized religion as we know it. Like this, the numbers have already been dwindling over the past couple of decades. And I can just see like something really on a global level happens that like just changes the psyche and the direction of like where we are spiritually. Okay. So there could be themes around that. Okay. So that's also a beginning of a 13-year cycle, like I said. So there's some pretty notable Neptunian themes that are arising in the beginning of this year. Okay. Let's switch next to another notable event. What's this, number 4? Now Venus goes into retrograde in Aries and Pisces, because remember retrograde energy kind of reverses, right, so to speak. So Venus, when we talk about Venus, Venus is our love, our beauty. It's also our interpersonal relationships, right? It is what are we attracted to? It's like what harmonizes our environment in that sense. So Venus is going in retrograde on March 1st of 2025. And so Now, this is also an interesting dynamic because I feel that there could be, if you find relationships where you're either the initiator or you're the one who is following, like the gullible one, if you're in partnerships that are like that and personal relationships that have that dynamic, it could really be explosive where it's like boundaries are getting made like quickly, harsh to the point, or there's just the dissolvance, or just like the relationship just implodes because it's not able to take this pressure anymore. Okay, because Aries is very bold, is very daring. Like I said, it's can some in some ways be a bit of a bulldozer. So in that contrast, when it's in a retrograde, that means it's in some type of conflict with Pisces, which is soft, it's gullible, it's um willing to lead or willing to follow. Okay, but it is very mutable as well. So um this could just be a time in your love life, perhaps, where you're just getting rid of outdated relationships or outdated concepts, and deciding to be kind of real and go in a new direction. So there could be new love stories that are made out of this, right? Out of destruction of like, hey, I don't think I deserve this. I deserve something else. And you get exactly that. Um, so that's what I'm seeing here. And I'm thinking like there's definitely going to be that highlight if, you know, if you're in a balanced relationship where there is even give or take, and, you know, people don't feel like they're giving too much of themselves, or people are not taking too much, then I think it'll be fine. But where there is that dynamic, it could just be accentuated, right? And so you need to like decide like, which one am I? Am I the gullible one, or am I the one that's like taking charge and leading this whole thing? Okay. So there could be some insights when it comes to that in your personal relationships. So our last one that I wanted to talk about, there's other ones, but I also wanted to talk about this Jupiter, right? So when we talk about Jupiter, Jupiter's that big red planet. Jupiter is how we get our abundance, and what ways is the world generous to us. But Jupiter is the expansive, because it's so big. We call it the planet of expansion. So it puts a microscope and blows up the theme of whatever it is, right? So, because it's very expansive in its nature, right? It's growth mindset. So, Jupiter has been in Gemini. Let me see. Okay, so Jupiter went into Gemini um, this year. So May 25th of 2024, Jupiter was in Gemini. And it'll be there until June 9th of 2025, right? And so what that means for us, with it being in Gemini, there's been this collective capitalizing off a variety of information, because Gemini is about communication. So this looks like kind of like, if you think about what's been happening, it's like media overload is just being inundated with so much news, so much like, it's so hard to keep up with things because you're just having all this information kind of thrown at you, right? Because it's highlighting that there's that growth, there's a growth in that. And so what we've been seeing is that you're looking in the news, there's lots of developments on what's happening in education, what's happening in transportation. There's just a lot of media like throwing news and information at you at this time. And so this is a time, because it's Gemini, there's a lot of information going out. It's going to be very vital for you to be able to fact check, especially in this day of AI, where the AI has just made things so much more complicated in a lot of ways when it comes to like receiving information and using your discernment to know what, is real and what's not, right? So there could be that energy. There is that energy that's happening right now, right, where we are inundated with a lot of information. But the good side of this, if you use this energy on a level, that Jupiter and Gemini energy, this is a great time for networking, getting out there, hanging out with your peers, networking, like I said, really capitalizing off of like your peer relationships is going to be very, very helpful. This is a great time for meeting people, for just meeting people that you are in alignment with. Okay. So capitalize off of that. Go out. There's something that you want to get into. There's whatever it is that you're looking for, that you want more information that you want to like swim in or be in. This is a great time for developing interpersonal relationships, and having those discussions and finding like-minded people as well. So could also use Jupiter in Gemini to your using that energy to really like kind of attract those relationships. Now, Jupiter switches into Cancer about halfway through the year. So on June 9th, Jupiter is going to go into Cancer. So now this is Jupiter is actually exalted in Cancer. It loves to be in Cancer. It's great in Cancer. So Cancer is, if we're talking about Cancer, Cancer is water. Let me look for Cancer here. Cancer is water. It's our home space. It's the ways in which are possessive. It's our family, right, so to speak. And so what it hasn't been here since 2013 to 2014 was the last time Jupiter was in Cancer. So just go back to that time and think about, what was highlighted around that time was expanded at that time. And it is going to be looking at our home space, but it's going to have this expansive attitude towards, we're going to be looking at not just our own personal space, and I think that kind of goes into that lunar node where I was talking about, like the South Node in Virgo, and how we're going to be stewards of the land in some way. But it's like our home collectively. There's something about an expanded view about what home means to us. Also, the people that we include in our family, blood versus our adopted family, right? The people that we've chosen as our family. So that's going to be quite expanded. But because it's also in Cancer, I'm expecting there's going to be global, national, international news about maybe like home security, because Cancer has to do with the home, or child welfare, because we're talking about families getting split apart. There could just be like news regarding family issues like that, housing crisis, food security, like all of those things that cause comfort. I think there could be a highlight to that, or a lot of stories in regards to that, right? Around the world, we could be seeing things like that. Okay. So that's really all I got. Those were the most noticeable transits that I'm seeing that I thought were important to kind of discuss. I hope that was helpful to anyone. Please do comment, like, and subscribe. I do offer birth chart analysis, so feel free to contact me if you're interested in knowing yourself through astrology, and knowing how these particular transits in the upcoming year are going to be personally affecting you. I'd be happy to help you out with that. That's all. My name is Tifa. I do tarot and astrology, and hope this was helpful. Bye.